We're live.
Hello, hello. Welcome on into another Monday Live with the Whiskey Crusaders. I'm Will.
I'm Sarah.
I'm Matt.
With the delay. Today we're joined by Tripp, who is the supervisor over at Barrell, the whiskey company. So we're going to be chatting with him here in just a couple moments. Matt, who's in the chat with us so far? We got quite a few.
So we've got Trev Wilson, Killico, Steve A, Wheels, Eric W, Jason Boosie, Christopher Davis, Stephen T, King Jack D, Mark, JG, Lynx Cat, Carl Ivy, Dram Band, thank you, ma'am, Ice House, Ben Stahl, Aaron Hardiman, Steve A, Tom R, Donald Rance, Golf Whiskey, let's see, Barn Door, AJ Lopez, Spencer Mav, Richie Z, let's see, hope I didn't miss anybody, Travis Waller, Robot Scott, and let's see, Linux Cat. Okay, we also already got a super chat here from Eric W for $2. Let me find it. Cheers. Thanks, Eric W. So we appreciate it.
Thanks, Eric.
Thank you very much, Eric. All right. So I'm going to turn it over to you, Trippin. We appreciate you coming on here from Barrell Craft Spirits and talk about all your amazing products. And obviously, we enjoy them. We know you do. So I guess you want to go into the history and talk about how you got there and how this all came about.
Yeah, guys, thanks for having me. I appreciate you reaching out and setting this up. So for all of you out there who are listening, who may or may not be familiar with Barrell Craft Spirits, we are a blender and a bottler. We source product from all over the world. Obviously, the bourbon's only from the USA. We put unique blends together. And we do everything at cask strength in batches. So once each batch is gone, it's gone. We do bourbon whiskeys, rye, and rum. We are currently doing some fun things with finishes that we'll talk about later on. We've got our Infinite Barrel project we'll talk about. We've got some Dovetail that we'll talk about. We have our Vatted Malt project we'll talk about, and we've got our Barrell Craft Spirits line that we'll talk about, which we commonly refer to as our BCS line.
Okay.
Very, very cool.
Okay. We actually got one quick thing that I'll address once we got it. So Tom R wants to know about the Irish cask strength bottle. He says it's fantastic. I don't know anything about that. So can you tell us about the Irish cask strength bottle?
Irish cask strength bottle.
That's what he's saying.
Be a little more specific.
Tom, he said it's fantastic. I guess, do you guys have an Irish cask strength version of it? Of Barrell? I mean, I don't know.
Well, we have done a lot with Irish whiskey. Well, we've done a few things with Irish whiskey and quite a few things with Scotch as far as Infinite Barrel goes. But I'm not quite sure what he's referring to.
Okay. Just ask him. Hey, Tom, can you be more specific which bottling or give us a batch number or something maybe? And we can figure it out.
Okay. It might be a private.
Oh, that could be. Is it a barrel pick, Tom? That might be what it is. He said it's an Irish whiskey finish in a Spanish brandy. Does that ring a bell at all?
Okay. That was a wonderful little project we played with. It's one of those that we were tinkering around with, where we had Irish whiskey and some Spanish brandy casks, and we didn't know quite what to do with each one of them. And the Irish whiskey, in the brandy cask, we weren't real sure that's what it would be, but it was similar to how the Tale of Two Islands kind of played out. It was one of those things where we put it together. We didn't have a whole lot of expectation around it, and it turned out to be fantastic. And it took us a while to get some label approvals and things done of that nature, being that it was finished. But that went quick. We were real proud of that one.
Sounds really good. Guess it never showed up here. If it did, it was gone like that probably. It's one of those. Sounds delicious. Well, that's awesome. Okay, I guess you want to give a little bit of as far as how long has Barrell been around for and stuff like that, and I guess who the owners are and all that good fun stuff, and how you guys do your selection process.
Sure.
Just in general.
Sure. So Barrell Craft Spirits has been around. We're in our 6th year. It was founded by Joe Beatrice. Joe started the concept in 2013, coming up with bottle design, label design, and then just the concept of the company as a whole. I met Joe in 2014 on the second bottling of bourbon. And let me back up just a little bit before we go there. I kind of feel like we're starting in the middle of the story.
Okay, that's fine.
Let me give you a little bit about my background, and then we'll kind of work our way up to how I came in with Barrell. So my background is in biochemistry and molecular biology.
Nice.
I graduated from college. Was planning on going to medical school. Ended up getting recruited by Brown-Forman up here in Kentucky to work as a research and development scientist.
Very cool.
So moved to Kentucky straight out of college and worked in all the main distilleries that Brown-Forman owns, and spent 9 years doing that, and then took advantage of the craft boom that started happening and wanted to be a part of that, lend my expertise to what was going on. So started a consulting company, worked all over the country, building distilleries, operating distilleries, doing some efficiency works. And then there was a distillery that I put together here in Kentucky that ended up doing contract bottling for Joe on his second round of bourbon.
Cool.
So that was when I first met Joe. We talked, we saw a lot of things eye to eye. It was interesting at the time that Joe was building a brand when everybody else was building a distillery. And that was one of the things that was very intriguing to me was, I would always tell people that building a distillery is not necessarily the way to go initially, because a lot of the value in what we do in a distillery is in the brand itself. Mm-hmm. And building a distillery is very expensive, very time consuming. And in most cases, you have to wait so long for your product to be ready that it's a lot of money out, not a lot of money coming back in, let's say.
Yeah, it can't be
and Joe, right. And Joe had already figured all this out. So by him already understanding what was going on with the distillery and the branding, he'd already decided to build the brand. And then at some point, as the brand grew, it would then justify the need for its own facility, its own distillery. And we saw eye to eye on that and how to move forward with the brand. And that's what's happened. The brand has organically grown to the point where we now have our own facility here in Louisville.
Awesome. How big is your guys' facility? Like, how many barrels are you guys currently aging?
Well, we've got our facility here in Louisville is just a processing facility. We don't store or age anything here in our facility in Louisville. We have, I think, 5 warehouses that we deal with mainly in Indiana, Tennessee, and Kentucky. And we move stuff around, bring it in as we need it. We work on our formulations with samples, and then we pull from the different warehouses depending on what we need based on the blend that we're currently doing.
Very cool. So when you guys have to take your samples, how long does it usually take to get the barrel from where it's at to when you guys go to bottling, once you've decided what to go into a different blend?
So you mean from the batch, blending the batch to when it goes to bottling?
Right.
There are times when we hit the nail on the head the first go around, and we get it done in a couple of weeks, which doesn't usually happen, but it has happened. And then other times it could take months. Sometimes we can go straight through for a few weeks or a month or two and without having to table it. Sometimes we have to table it and let it do its thing and come back to it because it's not where it needs to be. And letting it sit and mingle over time seems to help a lot, but it also gives us the opportunity to play around with other stuff. And it's very interesting how solutions tend to show up with the way we do the blends in the lab.
Always a good thing.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, why don't we go into some of the specific things? because I poured a little pre-pour of Dovetail, but I'm out now. So I want to talk about. Let's start with
whatever one you want to start with. We'll go from there. That works.
Are you looking at him?
Yes.
He doesn't like an empty glass.
I don't.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Tripp, which one do you think we should start? What would be the best? You want to start with just your bourbon, or one of your other ones? What would you prefer to start with?
Let's start with a bourbon, because as we drift from the bourbons, it tends to wear on the palate a little bit, I think.
Okay, sounds good. So you want to start with the batch 21 or 22, or like I said, we look at the single barrel, whatever works for you.
The 21 was the big winner this year. Maybe we should start with that one.
All right, we can do that.
Ironwork. The big winner, you say?
Yeah, so our Barrell Bourbon Batch 21 won Best Bourbon in San Francisco this year. It also won Best Small Batch Bourbon. We got double gold, Best Bourbon 6 to 10 years, and Whiskey Advocate gave it a 94 rating this year.
Very nice.
So it was turned out real well for us.
This guy is ringing in at 106.7%, or I'm sorry, proof.
Yeah, here I can see if we
What did I
can
say?
get
Ooh,
it. There we go. Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
sorry, 106.3.
There we go.
Matt's
Matt's
handwriting.
handwriting.
Ooh.
Yes.
And this is a blend of 10, 14-year-old barrels
Ooh.
from
Okay. Very cool.
Tennessee, Indiana, and Kentucky.
Can you tell me about approximately how many bottles you got out of it?
I'll tell you this. Normally, our batches are somewhere between, I'd say, 100 to 150 barrels. Some are as large as 200 barrels.
Okay.
You know, and you got to remember too that everything we're doing is different, and the batches that are out now, we're already 2 or 3 batches ahead in the distillery now.
Makes sense.
So there's a whole lot to remember.
Yeah, I'd imagine, especially how many batches you guys are at now. So do you just release it when it's ready, or do you guys have a set schedule, or how does that usually work for when you guys batch release?
Well, we try to have a schedule. We want to do as much projection as we can, but we're going to let the batch sort of dictate how we move forward. When we start out a batch, we'll have a grouping of barrels that we'll put together and say that this becomes the base. This is the base grouping. And then we'll ask the question, what's it need? What's it missing? Where do we need to go to get the different flavors? And we slowly move through this process in the lab on a smaller scale until we get someplace that is close to where we think we want to be. And then once we get to that point, then we physically dump the barrels and start the blend, and we scale everything up in the distillery.
Right.
As we start to scale up, it's a slow, kind of a slow stepwise process as we move up to the final volume. And the thing with that is that even though we have a projected volume where we'd like to go, there have been more than one instance where in this blending process, we'll hit a blend that is just so perfect that we're afraid to put anything else in it. So we'll stop at that volume, whatever it is, it doesn't matter. That becomes its own batch, its own release, and then we're back to square one again. So new grouping of barrels from different places, new profile, and then now we're on the search for the missing pieces.
That's a really
Very
interesting
nice.
and fun way to create whiskey.
Yeah.
So instead of trying to create a completely standard product all the time, you're just finding what works best and then making a release out of it. And I find that to be not only interesting, but a whiskey lover's dream, like to have
Seriously.
a distillery that's just solely focused on what is the flavor profile? Is it perfect yet? If it's not, awesome. If it is, let's stop now and just release it. I think that's a really fun way to do it. So yeah, we were really happy to have you on today, good sir.
Yeah, I mean, I enjoy all of the barrel products that I've had.
Yeah.
I know there's a lot of people that are consistency.
Yeah.
But sometimes you just have to just dive in and grab something new and try it. And I don't know, every time I've grabbed one new and tried it, I've enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Of course, we blend.
Well, and let me speak to the consistency piece too, because it's a very interesting piece, and I've worked on both sides of this. And any distillery who operates at their most efficient and their most efficient capacity is going to be making theoretically the exact same thing every single time. So the same yeast strain, they're going to be milling their grains the same. Most of the time they're going to go in the same barrel, same char, same toast. And so you can be fairly certain that if the distillery is doing everything the exact same way every single time, that from start to finish, the product should theoretically be the same. And the idea that you can do this and actually doing it are two very different things. Because let me tell you, starting from grain and yeast and water and coming out with the same thing every single time out of the end of that still is very, very labor intensive, and there are a million places to screw it up. So doing something consistently is not necessarily, it's not a bad thing at all, and it is much more difficult than people really think.
Oh yeah.
Now, take that and go to the blending side of things, where our only consistency is inconsistency in our blends. However, they all maintain a certain caliber of quality.
Right.
So we enjoy taking the spirits from other distilleries who have, say, mastered the whole process of going start to finish and creating their same product. So we kind of have an understanding of what the suppliers are going to be giving us as far as what we're going to call a raw material is going to be a finished product to them. So if these blends are missing certain pieces, certain flavor attributes, or things that we're looking for to round out a profile, we know where to go to get those flavor profiles.
If you're looking
we have a good idea that.
I was going to say, if you're looking for a maple charcoal, you know to go to the Tennessee aisle and start shopping around a little bit.
We're comfortable with, we're comfortable with understanding the way the facilities create their products and understanding sort of the finished product that we would be getting if we were to go and buy barrels from that distillery.
Okay, so I got a couple questions for you. Okay, so Kevin Stanley wants to know will the vatted single malt be available in Michigan at all?
I don't know off the top of my head. Let me.
Another one.
Let's see.
American Vatted, you said, Matt?
Yeah, he just wants to know if it's going to come to Michigan or not.
What is the American Vatted Malt?
Oh, we'll get to that one. It's amazing, is all I can tell you right now.
All right.
I think William wants to get to it.
Have to wait. Hold your horses.
Calm your ponies down.
Yeah, I want to thank.
Let me get an answer to that one. Let me come back to that one.
That's perfect. That's perfect.
I don't know off the top of my head.
No problem. Then Jason Boosie would like to know: has Barrell ever done or plan to do a wheated bourbon, or just a wheat whiskey in general?
Yeah, good question. We don't do a whole lot with wheat, or haven't in the past, and it's not that we're opposed to it. And it's interesting to get that question now, because as we're working on, we're kicking around batch 25, that question keeps coming up. We haven't done anything with wheat, and maybe this is the one to throw some wheat into. So, everything's on the table. When you let flavor drive the bus, everything's on the table.
Definitely. That's awesome. All right, so I think that's all the ones we got for the moment. Okay.
We got some friends in Dallas that are making some really wonderful wheat whiskey. Matt might want to hook you up with the name and number.
We're always willing to have the conversation.
Heard that.
That would be. It turned it a few shades darker though.
Way darker.
All right. Let's go over to batch 22, the bourbon at 116.6. So I know Will is out of whiskey in the glass, so just to keep
that batch was really, really lovely.
Yeah, I enjoyed that a lot.
Had a really wonderful palate, and it was quite good.
Yeah. Now you define American single malt. Yes, you do. That's funny.
So our batch 22 bourbon. So this kind of goes to this speaks to what I was talking about earlier about how we like to let flavor drive the bus. When we talk about flavor and good quality bourbons, there's so many folks out there think the darkest, oldest bourbon is always the best. And I'm not someone who necessarily believes that. Nope. I think there is a happy balance where all of the flavors work together.
Totally.
And depending on what flavors you're using, different ages and so forth is going to speak to how the finished product works together. And so if you look at batch 22, it's going to be a 5-year-old bourbon, all 5-year-old. It's Kentucky and Indiana whiskey. Okay. And the interesting thing about this is we took different groupings of 5-year-old products, separated the barrels out, and did sort of a sub blend, and then blended all of those together to create the finished product of what became batch 22. Batch 22 is all 5-year whiskey, and it got a gold this year at San Francisco.
This smells really good.
It does.
It's really good. I agree. Totally different than 21. I guess with the 80s.
Right. Absolutely.
Now, is this also from 3 different states, or is this just one state, this one?
That one's from 2 states.
2 states.
Kentucky and Indiana.
Okay. So just 2 states. Okay. So no Tennessee whiskey in that one. Interesting. Okay. And another question we got from Chris Taz is, we do not think there's a distributor in Oz, which he's in Australia, and he wants to know if you guys would like one, he'd do it for you.
We are we talk about going overseas all the time, and I definitely think it's something we're going to do. I just don't think we're quite there yet, but definitely, again, willing to have the conversation. Okay.
Yeah, I can, Chris. I'll email you, and I can send you the information so you can talk to you or whatever. And then also, is it going to go to Canada by chance?
Say that again.
Is there a chance of it going to Canada? Is the other question they want to know.
Yes, but same response. We're not quite there. We're doing all the research on going to Canada, going overseas, and doing all those different things, and the laws are all different every time you go someplace else. So we're trying to cross our T's and dot our I's, and hopefully we get there soon.
Well, you got to have a lot of product ready to go if you're going to go into another national market.
Absolutely.
I mean, you really got to be ready to scale up really fast and or lose a lot of market that you already have in the U.S. I mean, look at what happened to Buffalo Trace. They, started flooding other markets, and now you can't find any of their product here in the U.S. So,
right.
They're selling everything.
I don't anticipate us going that route. I think we're always going to have our stuff here in the U.S. But that's not to say that we're not going to look to other markets overseas.
Yeah.
All right. So we have a super chat from Joseph Brazos. It says, while at the NALA Festival this year, I was offered the Dovetail. I said, Franken whiskey. I tried it. Now I'm on my 4th bottle. That's awesome. Thank you. I don't blame him. It is freaking amazing.
It's my favorite lineup.
We refused to say the word on channel until we had multiple bottles in house because we were afraid people would make a run on it and I wouldn't be able to find it anymore. So I had to make sure I had multiple bottles for me before I would even mention the name on screen.
Yeah, we've got 3 in house right now. One's almost gone. I'm sad, but
All right,
it'll be replaced.
So,
we got another
the
one.
Dovetail product is actually it has turned into a life of its own. If you go back a couple of years, we were doing whiskey batches the same as we were doing bourbon batches, and the Dovetail whiskey was supposed to be our, and since we did several different finishes on this, it was getting tied up in the regulations and interpretation of the TTB rules and things of that nature. So, Joe came up with Dovetail. We decided to just go completely different direction, and Joe decided Dovetail was going to be the name. And after we released it, again, letting flavor drive the bus. It's whiskey finished in done Cabernet Vineyard barrels and rum casks and LV port pipes, and taking all of those different things together and playing around to get this perfect blend was a lot of fun. It turned out great, and it was so well received that we decided to continue releasing Dovetail with the same or similar material in different concentrations. So we'll have a different concentration of whiskey finished in the dun barrels versus the whiskey finished in the rum barrels versus the LV port pipes, and playing around with those different times in the finishing casks and the concentrations in the blends allows for the flavor profile to drift within a certain realm where all the key players are still there. They're just there in different concentrations.
Makes total sense. Okay, I'll come back to a little more in depth in a second. I got a few questions here. So, Brett Colombo wants to know, what is your favorite barrel batch or product that you've had?
It's tough to say, and usually when I get that question, I always say it's the one I'm working on now because it's the one I'm so engrossed in.
Right.
I would say 9 was one of my favorites. And the thing about 9, it was our oldest batch to date when we did it. It was 13 years old. And then the remaining most of the remaining barrels from what was batch 9 became the first BCS bourbon release that was 15 years old, that was best whiskey in Forbes magazine for 2018 that Fred Minnick reviewed. Yeah. After that, 21 is fantastic, and I don't just say that because of its recent accolades. It was one of my favorites before we even released it. That's a sad bottle.
Yeah,
I have a replacement of this batch.
Yeah,
so,
we have a backup this batch.
of this batch. So
Batch 2.
I'm okay with bottling it down. This is batch 2 of the Barrell Bourbon.
Yeah.
Barrel Dovetail. Sorry.
Yeah, we also got a super chat from Jason Boosie. He says, "Will a $5 help influence you towards a weeded bourbon?"
What? Say that again. What?
He says $5, hoping it would change your mind. So I don't know if that helps anything for you. But.
He said, "Will a $5 help influence you towards a weeded bourbon?"
Like I say, I'm not against it. It's just we have to find the right product to put in the bottle.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, and that's absolutely fair. And again, I've enjoyed everything that I've purchased from you guys so far. So I feel like you guys are doing the right thing so far about putting making good blends and putting the right things in the bottle. So
thank you.
All right, let's see here. We also got a question from Ben. Grab that. Where is it? I just saw it. There it is. Okay, let's see. He wants you to talk about the 13-year rum. He knows it's not whiskey, but can you talk about that anyway? Fine with me. Yeah. I never had your rums, but I'm sure they're great.
So the 13-year rum it's the BCS rum. And that again was one of those where we found some really, really old rum barrels that I want to say they took a year to get here. They were all over the place. They went New York and then somewhere in northern North America, somewhere around Canada, and then ended up in I think New Jersey before they came here. It's some crazy round the world thing. It took us forever to get these barrels, and it was barrels from Barbados, Guyana, and oh goodness, what was the third one? Barbados, Guyana, and Jamaica. And we took those three and asked ourselves, what would they be if we put them together and created a blend of these older rums? And originally we had planned to keep them separate and let them sort of represent themselves. But if you look at the different distillation and fermentation methods from the different areas, Will, who is our national sales director, was talking about the different characters that come from the different areas and how it might be really interesting to put them all together. So we played around in the lab with what we had and ended up putting them all together and creating the BCS rum that was in the black box, same as the BCS bourbon.
Okay.
And
Yes.
And was that just a one-time release?
Well, it was the rum, that particular rum, yes. Again,
Right.
batch is released. When it's gone, it's gone.
You're doing
However, if we come across another rum that we put together that we feel deserves to be in that package, then we will absolutely do that. But it doesn't mean that there will be a constant release of each of these BCS products every single year or in any time frame. It just depends on finding the right products.
When was that one released?
2018.
Okay.
Yeah, as I know, I've had that 15-year. That bourbon was really good. I was at a tasting with 4 other guys, and we all brought some unicorns, and that was one of the unicorns that came that night, and it was awesome.
Yeah,
Okay.
I was just trying to figure out my
Thank
chance of finding some.
Yeah, that I think we might have a problem.
Good luck.
Yeah, exactly. Wisconsin.
Yeah.
Good luck. So, Howdy Whiskey wants to know, what do you know? I guess probably what stay would be the best question. What juice is in the 18-year? He said he saw one at the store and it was really light colored.
Again, though, just the 18 years.
Probably needs more information than that.
I was like, I don't know anything about the 18-year, but I was hoping you do.
It could be Indiana, but we've got 18-year from more than just one state.
Oh, okay. And that answers that question. Who knows? Can you give us the batch? That probably would be more helpful. So Eric W. sends another super chat. Says, thumbs up. Thumbs means you get a sip. Thanks, Eric.
Followed by another one.
Right?
Do what?
Said followed by another one.
Yes, we got another from Ryan Parker. Says, what is the highest proof whiskey you guys have on hand? Just bought a barrel, single barrel rye. What is it? Is 153.94. Holy crap. In 14 years old, the highest.
Yeah, that sounds right. That's our Canadian rye.
That sounds
We've got quite a few of those barrels, and it's really interesting because we've seen more and more that are up over that 140, which everybody likes to call the hazmat barrels.
Yeah.
But the interesting thing about those is they don't drink like they're that hot.
Right.
That's what we found too.
Yeah,
Sometimes you can get them at 135, 140, and they taste like 115s. It's insanity.
Yeah, and then all of a sudden you're asking yourself what you've been drinking because you didn't realize you got there so fast.
Right. This goes down really good. I like high proof whiskey. I want that.
Yeah.
I want to try that.
So Joseph had also asked, what was up with the monster proofs on the new Ryes? It's just what's been the best flavor, I assume, as far as the crazy proofs on the new Ryes, apparently, which sounds amazing. I gotta find one.
Rye, Matt.
Well, again, again, everything we do is cask strength. So when they show up like that, that's the way they go in the bottle.
That's a good point. I gotta find one. That sounds amazing, though. All right, so I guess speaking of rye, let's talk about. We got your batch 3, 116.7. Want to move on? We'll talk about the rye. That works.
Well, that ain't 153.9 proof. Come on now.
Oh, think about that.
Yeah. So, our batch 3 rye won a double gold this year as well at San Francisco. And the interesting thing about our ryes is, we don't typically take the common approach to anything that we do, and the rye is really no exception. With I'll say with the
pick of what
the traditional understanding of what a rye whiskey is going to be a pretty grain forward, spice heavy whiskey. I would say is a pretty decent definition of rye whiskey as far as a traditionalist would describe it. And we wanted to take rye whiskey and sort of round out the flavor profile a little bit. So we don't want just this linear experience. So you're going to get your traditional rye flavors and aromas, but you're also going to get some fruit in there, and there's going to be some spice, a little bit of pepper.
Yeah, this is.
But it's not just
a rye.
It's not just spice and done. It's more of an experience, similar to the way we do the bourbons.
It's really tasty. I really enjoy it. It's the first barrel rye I've had. This is really tasty.
The first smell in, I got my typical dill note. But after that, it basically just vanishes, and I'm able to get, like what you're saying, like a plum, almost peaches.
Yeah, that's really good. Okay, so we got another question from Richie Z. He says he bought and emptied 2 barrels of batch 19. It was so good. Wasn't there a Tennessee whiskey in that barrel? Any idea on batch 19? Had Tennessee whiskey.
I
would say check out the website. I don't recall offhand. I can't remember all of these.
Oh, I know.
But everything is on the website. We are as transparent as absolutely possible.
We like that.
So if there's Tennessee whiskey in all of these, then it will say it on the website for sure.
Okay. We got another super chat. Eric W. for $5. Everclear at 190. Hand sanitizer. Thanks, Eric.
Everybody.
No, thank you.
All right. We got another question from Travis. He wants to know, have you guys used any MGP light whiskey at all that you guys have ever sourced or used in your blends by chance?
It's MGP light whiskey is some pretty interesting stuff. For those of you who are not aware of what MGP light whiskey is, it's the class and type is whiskey that is distilled above 160 proof, and it goes into used cooperage. It's fun to play around with. There are some interesting characteristics when you start going that high in proof. You lose a lot of the fruity floral notes, but you do gain some additional flavor for the profile, and it is fun to play around with those. Especially you can use them in blends and finishes. It's real nice to play with.
Okay.
Go ahead and highlight Steve A's comment there, Matt.
It's true.
Because it's so true. Our group,
there it goes.
Our people, transparency is key. And if you are being honest about what you're doing, they're gonna be happy about it. So they're willing to give you a shot if you're being transparent. If you're gonna try to hide everything, it's a big question mark of whether or not I even want to buy your product. So the transparency is.
We agree 100%.
It's well welcomed. We appreciate the heck out of it.
Also, big fans of odd stuff. That also sounds good. I like both of those things.
Yeah, we like the odd. We like the funky. We like the experiments.
When we go on tours of distilleries, we typically ask them, "What's the funkiest thing in here?" We want to taste the funky stuff. We want to taste the stuff that went wrong. That you're never gonna. You don't know what you're gonna do with it. Those are the barrels we want to taste.
Yes, please.
We've had your expressions, right? Like we've had the stuff that you've made and you put out to the market. We want to taste the other random stuff.
Show us the behind the scenes, please.
Yeah.
This is good rye.
Yeah, it's really yummy rye.
And William and I, we're not big rye people.
Uh-uh.
We usually get that dill note, and we're just like, nah. But this doesn't have that strong dill note. It's a lot fruitier than any other rye that I've ever had.
No.
I like it.
Which I tend to like fruit, and I know Joe likes a little bit of fruit in his whiskeys too. So we tend to roll those in there quite a bit.
I like it.
Yeah, it's quite delicious.
Glad you enjoy it.
Oh, okay. So that 18-year where he was asking about was a batch A102, Kentucky Straight. Yeah.
And again, you're going to be able to find all of that information on the website.
That's Indiana whiskey. Yes, all of that is on the website.
Perfect. Now we know.
Yeah.
Okay. Easy enough. Perfect.
So do y'all have a still? Are y'all actually distilling at this point? Or are y'all still just sourcing barrels? And
we do some distillation. We don't do a ton of it only because we're a growing company, and keeping up with everything that we've planned for ourselves is very time consuming. But what we do some smaller things, and in the future, part of what we were planning on doing is, we talk about this, putting blends together from different grain bills, different barrels, different types of woods, char levels, all these different variables on the backside. You can also do the same thing on the front side. So you take different yeast strains, different grain bills, and fermentation temperatures and distillation profiles, and you can create just a whole host of things before you even go into the barrel. Mm-hmm. So there's a whole nother thing that we've looked at playing around with, and we do some tinkering on the front end, if you will. But we do some distilling, but not a ton.
Okay, so let's see. So Joseph Reyes wants to know. He says, "You've heard you guys use rye from Poland. Is that correct?" Actually, no.
That is absolutely correct.
Polish rye is awesome.
Nice.
It is very good.
Yeah, because the Boosh is from Poland. That's the Cryo Barrel. And I know your Infinite Barrel project has Polish rye in it. Do you use the Polish rye in any other products, or just the Infinite Barrel project?
It's in Infinite Barrel project. We used it in Rye 2.
Okay.
Yeah, in Rye 2.
Well, that was a hell of a good rye. I really like that. That's awesome.
Yeah, I like that one.
Okay. Which one do you want to go? Do you want to go on just talk about your single barrel program for stores at all? You want to do, because I know they've got a NASA one. I've got a Total Wine one. If you want to talk about that in general. So obviously we don't have this specific one.
Yeah, sure. We can talk about that. So we do several hundred single barrels annually, and we've just brought on Nick Christensen, who is our single barrel program manager, and we select a handful at a time, single barrels that we're going to allocate to that program. We'll pull samples and send those out to different retailers, distributors, bars, restaurants, anybody who's interested in purchasing a single barrel. Same thing with private release whiskeys and private release rums that we can talk about here in a little bit. Okay. But we'll there's an interesting process that goes into really picking out single barrels and making sure the batches don't suffer. So when you don't want to pick all the cherry barrels, right? You don't want to put everything aside for single barrels. You want to save some so that you can get some good flavor in your batches.
Right.
So being able to really hone in on certain types of flavors and say, okay, we can use this over here as a single barrel, or it could be really good in this batch if we need it. Yeah. And we're actually doing this right now with one of our current blends, where it's, do we sacrifice a couple of these barrels over here because they have some of the characters we're looking for, and does that get this other batch across the finish line, or do we leave those as single barrels and just go on with something else? So there's that constant conversation that we're having with each other about, what makes the most sense for, this particular barrel and this particular batch.
That you're currently working on, not even,
Future.
not even for
Projects.
future projects that, you still have in mind. So it's still.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, we go through some barrels for sure.
I can imagine. Well, I mean, you said earlier that you enjoy the fruitiness. I just poured Matt your pick, or the bottle that you have.
This is very fruity.
This is such a fruity bourbon.
Mm-hmm. It's really good. I like that a lot.
It's cherry and strawberry. It's apples and just fruit for days. It's beautiful.
Yeah, I get a lot of berries on it.
I haven't even gotten to the palate yet. I'm still on the nose of the nose.
Smells awesome.
This is the first one I've actually gotten lost in the nose in, so that's fun.
No, yeah, we'll definitely review that both of those bottles at some point.
Yeah.
So we've got a question. So I guess Rostalov Traps has one of the Irish ones, but he wants to know if you guys are going to bottle more of the Irish stuff, or that was just a one-time release, or just who knows? It depends what you come up with over time.
Yeah, anything's possible. We love to play around with different things, do different finishes. We do have a little bit more Irish whiskey left, so we're playing with some things, but it won't be the same thing. Most likely, if we do something else with Irish whiskey, it will likely be a different cask or casks that are blended.
Yeah, these are awesome. So I guess, Kevin, do you guys ever do half barrels? Do you ever or you always only sell the full barrels?
We have been known to split barrels between two locations. It's a little more difficult on the logistics side to do that, but we have done it.
Okay.
Good
So
to know.
it's possible, guys. Very cool.
Good to know. Who's going half?
Donald, do what?
I said, who's going halfsies?
Who's going Donald Rance wants to know if you're able to disclose the Irish whiskey source, or at least give it a rough location. He's our Irish whiskey Yoda, so that's why he's interested in knowing.
Well, if he's had the Irish whiskey, he should know, right? If he's the Yoda.
Well,
Yeah.
he's in Canada, so.
He's in Canada,
Kidding.
so unfortunately he probably can't get it.
Oh, okay. Well, we get it from over there. It comes from over there.
It comes from over there.
It's from across the pond.
It is, in fact, in Ireland.
That's funny. It is in Ireland. That's very helpful. That's hysterical.
It originally starts over there. How's that? I know that's not helpful, but I can't. We're bound contractually, so I can't say that.
That is funny.
Are you able to tell us? Are you bringing over the entire barrels? Are they shipping it over in totes?
Both.
Okay. Just depends.
It depends.
Okay.
Oh, so we got Bourbon and Baby just came in. So let everybody know that earlier tonight they did a whiskey draft. So if you guys want to check out their thing from earlier today, I guess Jason the Mash and Drum and My Bourbon Journey and Bourbon Buddies were on there, and Susie, which I can't remember the name of her Instagram, but they were all on there. It's pretty cool if you guys want to check that out. And, Whiskey Dick's in here. I know Mash and Drums in here. Bourbon Buddies are in here, but I want to say hi to those other channels in there. Keith, could be Middleton. You never know. All right, so we got another question from Richie Z. So Richie Z wants to know is what's the story about the Barrell New Year bottles? I just finished the 2020 year, which was awesome. Oh yeah, that's a good one for us to move on to. So we can move on. I got the 2019, but if you want to talk about the New Year in general, that's perfect.
Yeah, we'll talk about that. I'm glad you enjoyed that bottle. The New Year is something that we started because it's a fun little project we do at the end of each year that has a little bit of everything that we've worked on bourbon-wise for that year. So we'll take a portion of all the stuff, all the components that we have left over, and put some unique blends together until we get to something that is just crazy complex. And I think last year we had the 2019 Matt that you have, I think has, I want to say it was seven different states, and the 2020 Richie that you finished was 5 states, I believe.
Yeah, as you can
but
see,
it's always a lot of fun to put those together.
Yeah, I've loved this one many times. It's quite great. I hid it for myself for a long time. Then I found it the other day. It got another fourth of it drank out of it. So
Well, then
I don't want to hide this for myself.
and you gave us a sample too, so
This is true. It is delicious though.
gotta hide it again. You
So
can hide it at my place.
what
I won't drink it at all.
blended everything each year. That's cool. I like that idea. Yeah, because I guess
It's a really fun concept to just kind of.
so it's got, so I'll read off the states in here too. So we got what? Tennessee, Kentucky, Indiana, Texas is in here, New York, and Illinois. Ooh, that's cool. I guess the question is, can we find the Texas whiskey in here? That's the real question.
Are you able to disclose to us what type of Texas whiskey went into this one? Can I at least know a
I might as well tell you the distillery if I do that.
Oh. Well, that's not necessarily true.
Hold on, I need to compare all my.
It's a bourbon. There's lots of Texas bourbon.
I gotta compare them all.
There's tons of Texas bourbons.
It smells real good.
Seriously.
Mm-hmm. There's a reason why I drink a ton of this.
Oh,
That's really good.
Mm-hmm. I love this bottle a lot.
oh, and you're right. Very, very interesting on the palate.
Mm-hmm.
The journey is really, really,
Ever changing.
bumpy. Everything kind of molds and changes across your palate. That's really, really fun.
I like to compare it to a roller coaster.
Uh-huh.
You
Yeah,
know, it's an ongoing up and down ride, and you never know what's coming next.
And for me, it's right at the end of the roller coaster where they're just going over the hills really quickly to kind of slow you down, but still give you a bit of a thrill. It just kind of races across. It's really, really fun.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's see. Whiskey Dick wants to know about the label, if there's maybe be a label out there. He says, too many people pass it by because it's not eye-catching. It's criminal. He loves the Patch 18. I don't know. I guess that is a good question for your.
Well,
why the shield anyway? Just to wonder why pick the shield.
Well, let me go back and answer his question about the labeling, and it's a good question. But the idea behind the label is that the label and the bottle, everything works very well together, and it's very simple, it's very elegant, and it really showcases what's in the bottle. Because again, we don't want you to pay money for this beautiful package that's overpriced and oversold, and then be disappointed with what's in the bottle. Right. We don't want to cover anything up. We want to showcase the liquid because that's what you're buying. You're buying the bourbon or the whiskey that's in that bottle, and so that's why that's why the shield sits lower on the bottle, is so that you can see what's in that bottle. We want to showcase that whiskey, and that way when you drink that whiskey, you are you enjoy the whiskey, and you go buy another bottle. I mean, we're trying to put it all out there.
Yeah,
makes sense to me.
Yeah,
I like liquid in the bottle personally.
And honestly, now that I know what it looks like, my eyes trigger to it.
I think that's it. When you first don't know, once you know about, you're looking for it at that point.
Right.
Right. Yeah.
Especially specific releases.
This is
Well,
good.
I'm absolutely going to be on the lookout for the new year next year, because that's just a really, really interesting concept, and to be able to follow a distillery's entire year through one bottle expression is really a fun concept, especially for people that are.
It's fun. Well, we like to try to be kind of in the forefront of innovation and different things that a lot of people aren't doing, which is actually. Are you guys? Yeah, where are you in the lineup? Are you to Infinite Barrel yet?
Let's do the American whiskey first, because then I think we'll go to the other ones because it's such a vast flavor difference once we start going into those. If that works for you.
Okay. Which one?
The American whiskey, which I've got a batch 5, which a 9-year at 118.4.
Okay, so that is this is where that transition to Dovetail came in. So in batch 5, we had a couple of different finishes. I believe that was the sherry and the rum. and there's a couple others in there too. I can't remember them all. But when we went on to batch 6, that's when we did the Dun Vineyard cab barrels, the Jamaican rum, and the LV port pipes, and then blended all those together. And we couldn't get TTB approval on that label. So instead of that being Whiskey Batch 6, it became Dovetail.
Okay.
So Whiskey Batch 5 is the oldest batch or the highest batch number we have for whiskey.
Oh, interesting. Okay. I think that was actually my first bottle of Barrell I was able to track down, because for a while I couldn't find any around here. I read about them like on Whiskey Wash or whatever. And finally I found that one when it showed up and grabbed that one, I don't know, maybe 3 years ago or so. Something like 3-4 years ago, something like that.
And again, the whiskey's a different approach. You can't really compare, a whiskey and a bourbon, because they're not really the same things. You may like bourbon more than you like whiskey, but again, we're just talking about flavor here. We're talking, flavor drives the bus. You can like the whiskey and like the bourbon, and you don't have to pick one or the other.
Yeah, I vote for like them all, which is pretty much how I am in general. I like them all, so I go. Yeah,
so far. So
yeah, I didn't even realize it was even a rum until I was looking on your website last night. I was doing some research. I was like, "Crap, there's a rum. Not gonna buy a rum too."
Yeah, now I'm gonna need to find some of that, because
I was like, "It sounds awesome what you're saying." Oh, this is good.
Yeah, everything we do is on that website. There's even a store locator, so you can put in your zip code. It'll tell you where to go to buy it. And we even have a buy now button that you can buy, and we'll ship it to your house.
Not in Texas. Boo.
Well, it'll ship from a third party.
Oh, so maybe it can be then.
So I think you may still be able to do it.
Good to know. So everybody, you can buy online, even better.
Yeah, if I can buy your product online, I'm probably in trouble.
This is a good point.
Well, give it a shot. Go try the bell button and see if it'll let you.
No, don't encourage her.
What is this?
Let's not. No, the habit is barely controlled. Let's not encourage her.
Okay, so Clifton McDowell.
I'll send you later.
He says, "I'm excited to expand into Barrell products. What do you recommend as a second bottle to try after the Dovetail?"
All of them.
Honestly, Clifton, I would say
Right answer.
Pick probably a single barrel. If you can find a store pick, that's probably a good second way to go with it. I've heard great things about the new batch of the rye. I was reading actually a Facebook post about it on a whiskey group that I'm part of last night. It was a big old punch in the face rye, they said, and it sounded like a beautiful ride to me.
Yeah, if any of the mods want to post their website to their for Barrell, that'd be great. Then anybody can go check it out, and they can buy a bottle apparently, which is even more awesome, directly from the website. So even more perfect. Okay, so let's
streamline.
Exactly, problem solved. Nobody in between.
Holy shit!
Bill wants to know if you can
right now.
Yeah, and Bill wants to know if you can hide a full size bottle or just a 375 in your beard.
I haven't tried yet. I haven't tried either. I'll have to do that tomorrow. I'm going to answer that question tomorrow.
Thanks, Bill. That's funny.
You're at the little sample bottle right
I
now.
got a little sample bottle in there.
You got a sample bottle in there. You go. See, Will can do sample bottle in.
You can't see it.
That's awesome. Get that in there.
Oh my gosh.
I'm at 50 mil. 50 mil.
Yeah, Kevin Stanley says, "You need a state rep in Michigan. He's your man. He'll be your Huckleberry." All right, that's good. I like that too. So I guess you want to do Dovetail, the Infinite Barrel Project, or the Vatted. What will be the next best one you think to go to?
I would probably say do Vatted last.
Okay.
So either Infinite or Dovetail, you can choose.
We're going to Dovetail again?
Yeah, we have to talk about them more and drink more of them. It's important.
I have 2 pours of Dovetail.
Let's do the Infinite, because I think that the barrel finish on the Dovetail might be a little. Yeah, so let's talk about this thing, this beast, which I really like. Yeah. So
I like
it comes in
So the
18.4.
Yeah, I like that color too. It's different.
so are you guys familiar with the infinity bottle concept? I'm sure you are.
Yes.
I have 3.
Yeah. Okay. So
But
so
just in case
the
somebody's
Infinite
not,
Barrel
you might want to say
Project.
what it is. We always get new people in here that might not know what it is. So go ahead and tell
Okay.
them what the Infinity Barrel, what the whole concept is.
So the idea on an infinity bottle is that you have a bottle behind your bar or somewhere in your house that oftentimes I have been told is the crystal decanter that you get from your wedding that you don't use for anything else, and it becomes this infinity bottle. And it is a little bit of every bottle just before you finish it. And you just keep filling it up, filling it up, filling it up, filling it up. And then eventually when it's full, you take a sip and then you fill it up with more stuff. Well, the Infinite Barrel Project is basically a large scale commercialized version of that. We took unique whiskeys from all over the world and put blends together. So there's whiskey in there from all over the States. There's Irish whiskey, Scotch whiskey, Polish rye whiskey. There's whiskey finished in Curacao barrels, rum barrels, our bourbon barrels. I mean, there's so much flavor in this. And then what we do is we allocate a portion of each blend and we bottle that at a different proof. And it's not really a batch. It's more of an expression or a release. And the proofs change throughout those. You can go on our website. I think we've done it 13 times now. And each time we bottle an expression, we'll turn around and put more cool stuff back in this living batch almost. You know, it's this living whiskey is constantly changing, constantly evolving, and we're constantly adding more and interesting things to it.
Yes, I just raised my hand. Real quick question. Is this sitting? Yes, I just raised my hand. She just muted it to ask me the same thing. Is this whiskey sitting in a barrel or is this whiskey sitting in a tote?
So when we first started out, there was we have a dedicated tank that holds the total volume of this stuff. And what I really wanted to do was have a large scale barrel actually custom made for this project. And it's something we may still do. But currently it is sitting in a tank.
Cool.
Yeah.
I was actually going to tell him let me get to the payment page on your website.
Oh, good.
So,
she's over here buying whiskey from you, sir.
That's awesome.
This is the Whiskey Crusaders first. I don't know if
We're buying during streams now because we don't have enough.
That's great.
Well done, good sir.
Yeah, we got a technical question real quick. Is there a technical reason why you guys focus on cask strength?
That's where all the flavor is. That's the way God intended you to drink whiskey.
Damn right.
If we're going to sell you the full flavor package, and if you want to put water in it, that's up to you.
I love it. I think all of it. Cask strength is the way to go for sure.
Yeah,
100%.
My preference by far.
Well, I mean, you say that, but you're a company that's all about flavor, and there are times that putting a little bit of water in it changes the flavor and could actually create a better flavor of it. So have you ever thought about proofing down whiskey, not necessarily down massive amounts, but just put some water in to see if it gets better at a specific proof?
I think you are accurate in saying that by putting water in there, it does change the flavor. And again, we're all going to taste different things at different proofs. All of our palates are different, and tasting something a certain way is not necessarily right or wrong as long as you're enjoying the experience. We've kicked around proofing things down before, but at the end of the day, we're going to sell you the cask strength product, and then if you'll notice on the website, we provide tasting notes that says with a splash of spring water. So we've actually done the research on what it is if you add a little water to it. So we give you a little bit of information on what that flavor is going to be like as well.
Very cool.
Very nice. I like it.
These are fun.
Yeah. This one's good.
This one's really, really fun.
It's really good.
So it's almost like a Solara
And it's-
cask. And I was actually going to ask if you thought about maybe even just making something like a Solara cask to make this Infinity project with.
Yeah, it's basically Solera in reverse.
Right.
Because in Solera, you take one cask and you go into a bunch of them. This is basically that flipped upside down. It's a whole bunch of casks coming into one.
Well, no, that actually that's the way it works. You got a whole bunch at the top that you're filling into smaller and smaller amounts to where you get one at the bottom, and then you fill from the bottom, and then refill from the ones at the top. So all your newer stuff is is in brand new barrels, and then it just kind of Solaras down slowly into smaller and smaller vessels.
Solara's down.
It's a technical term.
Okay.
Solara's down.
So if you did get a big barrel like you're talking about, that would essentially be the same exact concept.
If we got a big barrel, I'm sorry, you cut out there.
I was saying if you got a big barrel, that would essentially be the exact same concept where you're just taking, some aged whiskey and putting it in and never letting that barrel run a certain amount empty before putting new stuff in.
It never runs out.
Right. It's a very, very fun concept.
Got a comment there, Matt.
Hold on 1 second. Okay. Let's see. Here we go. Oops, wrong one. This one. Okay, it says, Barrell needs to get you talking to more folks. This has been a great chat. I'm more interested in Barrell. Also good stuff. Well, thanks, Brett.
Thank you, Brett.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm glad
Thank you.
hope you guys do go out and buy it. We wouldn't have anybody on we didn't think was making an awesome product. So part of it is to extend all of our whiskey nerd knowledge because that's what pretty much all of us in here are. So we love all this stuff, and Barrell's probably one of our favorite companies to deal with. So we were really excited when they reached out and said,
Well,
hey,
thank you.
can we come on? I was like, absolutely. Yes, please. Where do we set up for that?
Well, and it's fun to nerd out on bourbon every now and again, right? When you can sit around and talk about the ins and outs and enjoy a good pour, it's fun.
Yeah, I mean, we do it at least
That's what
once
it's all about.
with all these folks, Mondays. It's like life in our house in the evenings after the kid goes to bed. So what are we blending on tonight? And, it's fun.
Yeah.
We're big nerds.
Yeah.
Nothing wrong with it.
We do love the nerding out in the whiskey. There's no doubt about that. Okay, so that stuff's delicious. So have you had that before, Will? And sorry, have you guys had the Infinite Barrel Project? Ever given you that one prior?
No, that's the first timer.
It's delicious.
I enjoyed it.
It's quite
a
lovely.
lot.
All right, so I guess let's move on to Dovetail. We'll get a little more nerdy into the Dovetail because, it's Dovetail. And I know we talked about it a little bit before, but yeah, so this is a batch one, 122.9 proof. We actually got 3 different batches we're going to discuss for everybody, so because it's Dovetail and it's awesome. All right, I'll grab these. Okay.
So a little bit on Dovetail for everybody who's listening. We've talked a little bit about this before we went live, but Dovetail is a concept where we use the same or similar ingredients in different concentrations and sort of let flavor drive the bus. So we've got different whiskeys that are finished in Dun Vineyard Cabernet barrels, Jamaican casks, and late vintage port pipes. And this is made up of all of those whiskeys in different concentrations, and each of those whiskeys can spend different amounts of time in the finishing casks. So there's multiple layers of variability leading up to the finished product. And what we like is let taste drive the bus all the way to the end. Again, it's kind of like put the blend together. What's it missing? Is it too much of this, too much of that? Go back to a cask that maybe the whiskey spent a little less time in or a little more time in to accentuate certain flavors. Again, it's just being able to find that missing flavor that you need to sort of finish rounding out that experience.
Definitely.
So we've got three
I was gonna say-
dovetails in front of us here. Batch 1, batch 2,
and batch 5 or 6.
and whatever that other batch is that I haven't looked up yet. I'll have to look it up.
Put it in the chat. Or tell them how big the chat can figure it out for us which one it is.
This one.
They're geniuses at it.
So this is
No, this is 2. You
okay.
need that one down there.
I need that one down there.
The 124.34. Is that the
one?
124.34
proof.
And there's nothing on the label that shows.
It says that there were 1,313 bottles. So whatever batch number that was.
Somebody find that for me. I'd appreciate lots.
They're very, very similar on the nose.
Or I'll go look it up later. I'm apparently not allowed on your website right now.
You're buying too much whiskey at this point?
I haven't hit the buy now. I just hit the add to cart.
That's funny. Okay, so Kevin Stanley wants to know, what's the process of concluding when the whiskey is ready? Do you guys vote, or who decides when it's ready? Or is it a group thing, or just you, or how's that work usually?
It's a general consensus. It has happened a couple of different ways in that there have been times where Joe and I will both, we will have gone through the process and, we're, third or fourth round of putting a little of this, a little of that in, whatever. And there have been times where Joe and I just looked at each other and go, it's done.
Perfect.
And, we button it up and there it goes. There have been times where, I might think it's ready and Joe will taste something that he's a little more hypersensitive to that I might not get as much as he does. And, we'll have the conversation and then discuss what's sort of that missing piece, what could balance that out or maybe cover up if it's something that we don't necessarily want to show forward. Is there a way to cover it up, or is there something that can balance it out or complement it? And then we'll sort of, I guess, go back and find those pieces and blend those up again in the lab, retaste and have the conversation. And it doesn't go in the bottle until we've agreed.
Okay, makes sense.
So, from what Steve says, this is batch 3. So we've got batch 1, 2, and 3.
Perfect.
Here.
Okay, great.
Okay, another question from Aaron Hardiman. Is there a certain flavor profile you put your finger on, Tripp, that you look for most or consider essential in your blends?
A fruitiness.
I personally like the fruity. You're right. I personally like fruitiness. I think that the spectrum in fruit is so wide that there's so many nuances you can get within that fruit spectrum. And I think it goes with the majority of the other flavors. So you're always going to get, well, in my opinion, you're always going to get a nice round flavor when you include fruit with your typical barrel characteristics, the vanillas, the caramels, sometimes the leather and the tobacco. And when you roll into the floral and then into the fruity, I think it makes a well-rounded product.
I would agree with you on that one.
So fruit for sure. Short answer.
Well, Jason says that he can't get it online, but that's okay. He'll go social distance to the liquor store tomorrow and find it. Problem solved.
So there is a slight difference between the 3. 1 and 2 are really, really similar. The third one, to me, has a little bit more punchiness on the nose, but it also, the palate was slightly different as well. And again, I think the fruit just kind of dialed up a little bit more on the third batch. All are really, really fantastic and very, very similar.
Yeah, I agree. There's not huge differences at all.
No, the Dun Cab is fantastic.
Yeah, Jason also says he just bottled down his bottle of the Infinite Barrel project and needs more barrel in his life. We absolutely do.
Heard that.
It's a good thing to have in your life.
Yeah.
Totally agree.
If you don't have some, get some.
There's almost more, I think there's more leather in the third release than there are in batch 1 and batch 2. It's just a little bit more earthy, a little bit more leather.
I see. I don't get that. I get more fruit.
Yeah.
I don't get the leather as much. Nice plum
You're
note.
both right.
Thanks.
You're both right.
That's what's great about this, isn't it?
Exactly.
Absolutely. And you can let those sit out too for just a few minutes and go back and taste them again. They'll be different.
Right. Yeah.
That's what I'm gonna do.
My batch 2 has been sitting out for a little bit. You should actually go like this.
Yep.
And so it's actually opened up some and changed a little bit since before the stream when I had my pour earlier.
Mm-hmm.
Completely different pour. But you see, I get more char on batch 2. That char, leathery. All of them are good.
All of them are lovely.
Not disappointed at all.
Yeah, we'll see what happens in a few minutes too, just to see with the air what it changes to. It'll be interesting. See, I got chocolate on the third one now, along with the fruits and the char. Oh, it smells so good. They're all great.
Yeah.
Oh, Ruslaw, he just bought the American Vatted. Perfect. See, fantastic.
We got a sale in the live chat.
There you go.
Nice.
Oh, I guess Joseph wants to. Are you drinking anything at all, Tripp, right at the moment, or just hanging out?
I have a bottle of batch 24
Oh, very nice.
that's not quite available yet.
Not quite.
It's in the pipeline. It should be at a store near you very soon.
Very
Even
fun.
better. Oh, they also know what kind of glass you're drinking from as well.
A cheap old highball glass from Target.
That's awesome.
Because that's what we drink from sometimes.
That's great.
It's I recently moved, so I'm not real sure where my Glencairn glasses are. So this was in the front of the dishwasher, the clean dishwasher. So that's what it happened to be tonight.
Perfect.
A clean glass is a good glass.
Yeah. Whatever gets it to your mouth.
Yes, sir.
That's right.
All right.
What has been your favorite product to put out so far, as far as what your palate enjoys? Again, we understand that everybody's palate is very, very different, and it may not be everybody's favorite, but just what's been just your palate's best?
Oh, goodness.
I'm asking that.
I know, I mean, because making you choose a child is not fun.
Right. Especially when you have this many.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, well then,
I'm gonna
have there been
well.
projects that just have stood out more than others?
Early on, I would say I'm going to go back to the Batch 9 bourbon. That was one of my favorites, which led into the BCS 15-year-old. So, those kind of have a special place with me. The finishes that we play with are a lot of fun, and we haven't talked much about that, and we can talk about that in a minute.
Okay.
And then Vatted was actually a lot of fun to do. The American Vatted Malt. That was a project that we worked on. It's basically an American Scotch, if you can't say that, but that's basically what it is. It's Scotch style whiskey that was made in America. And there's actually a group lobbying to have the TTB include that as a standard of identity for American whiskeys, because it doesn't currently have that.
So it's a single malt, and it's aged in used oak. Is that what you're saying?
Well, it is. All of these they're trying to get categories passed to the TTB to allow them to say that. So what we did is we worked with 8 different distilleries in the country that were all making very unique malt style products. And we brought all of those in and put a blend together, and it was pretty amazing. We've had Scotch drinkers tell us that they really enjoy it. I think that's pretty impressive when you get a Scotch drinker saying that they enjoy your malt whiskey.
I agree.
So most of this is going to be new American oak then.
Yes.
Okay.
No, I'm sorry. Most of that's going to be used.
Okay.
Yeah, so it says New York, Texas, Indiana, New Mexico, Washington, Arizona. So I got good guesses on at least 3 of these, especially in Arizona, New Mexico, Washington for sure,
Right.
and probably Texas too.
I think we tell you what some of those are on the website, but you have to go look.
Oh, okay, cool. Well, I will definitely check that out. I'm like, I got a good guess. Colkagan, Del Bach, maybe probably Westland and Balcones would be my guess.
That would be precisely my guess.
You need to get some of that in my glass.
Yes, you totally need something in your glass.
I took all 3 dovetails.
So how did this whole project come about for this vatted American malt anyway? How'd you guys come up with this idea? It's so unique and different. I don't even like it.
We have these, we call them blue sky sessions, where we just sit around and talk about off the wall stuff. You know, it's the most off the wall ideas we can come up with, and through those conversations, we typically will distill down to a handful of ideas that we want to play with. And we had, to that point, we hadn't done anything that was 100% malt forest Scotch style whiskey. So we decided we wanted to do something with that. Plus, we knew some of these other distillers in the country, and we thought it would be fun to work with some of the smaller micro distilleries to put something out in the Made in America version. And so we reached out to a lot of these distilleries, and they were all more than willing to be a part of the project. And so we started playing around with the different concentrations, and lo and behold, there it was.
It's got
smells like a Bayside.
It's got a green note.
But you can tell each if you're familiar with each of these distilleries, you can tell when each one hits your palate. That's really interesting.
And the smokiness in there, I thought, was real interesting too. It's not peat like you would immediately think it would be.
Yeah, it's that mesquite smoke.
Yeah.
Oh, that's good.
Is it Andalusia that I'm smelling?
Andalusia?
Well, it's Del Bach. That's that Del Bach finish. Definitely. That's what, because I can each one goes through, I can tell on the flavor. That is gotta be one of the coolest whiskeys I've ever had.
Matt, do you think it's Balcones, or do you think it's nobody's answered this in the chat yet, or do you think it's Ranger Creek?
Ranger Creek?
They don't make a single malt that I'm aware of at Ranger Creek.
No.
Okay.
Well, they make well, that's not true. They make oh my gosh. I'm not sure it's Andalusia.
And it has a little bit of that green funk that their malt has.
Balcones, Del
Balcones, okay.
MGP, Harvest Distillery, Santa Fe Distillery, Kings County Distillery.
Oh, so you maybe some of the Kings County's good stuff too. Oh yeah, we got a bottle of that. Yeah. We have to play. Can we blend this ourselves for fun?
Yes. I like blending beans.
Oh, that'll be a fun live. See how many blends we can get remotely close to this. To just be for entertainment purposes only.
Dude.
Right?
It would be a good one to do with everyone. That'd be a fun stream, like a blend along stream would be cool.
Or we could bring this to Somm class.
Yeah, I'll definitely bring it to Somm class for sure. It's really tasty. That's good stuff. Let's see, I hope I didn't miss anybody's questions.
Yeah.
I don't think I did.
The Del Bach.
Yeah.
Really kind of that their little lining kind of shines through on this.
Yeah, it really does. That's good.
Thank you.
I'm smelling the Balcones now, Matt. That's finally coming through.
I have
Oh yeah.
Heard that more and more.
Because it was really good, and I drank it too fast because it was just too tasty.
Yeah. Anything coming up in the distillery? Obviously sipping on.
We're going to talk about the rum. We haven't talked about the rum yet.
Oh, that's fair too.
And then some of the barrel finishings you were talking about, the stuff you guys are doing. So let's talk about those things that you got coming up, and the rum, especially, it's out. And
okay, so
finishes you got.
So we've done we've done several sets of what we call private release whiskeys or private release rums, and it's basically a single barrel concept, except that we do individual finishes on each of the barrels. So with the private release whiskeys, we have 48 different whiskeys. It's a small whiskey blend that we put together, and then it's got 48 different finishes. Each barrel is a different concentration of whiskeys, and then each barrel also has a separate finish. So that's coming down the pipe real quickly.
That sounds awesome.
We also did something very similar with rum, where we took Jamaican and Barbados rum and blended it in different concentrations and did different finishes. There's also some Martinique in there too, and did different finishes with each of those. And we've done several groups of 18 previously. We have another group we're getting ready to do now. All different finishes. So they'll be those will be out very soon too. And again, everything's about flavor.
Awesome. Yes. So I guess I saw on your website last night, Two Islands. Is that what the Two Islands is? That's the Barbados and the Jamaican, or that's something different?
Yeah, the Tale of Two Islands was a fun project that Joe and I basically took. I think it was 25 different random samples of rum finished in X and put together 25 different blends and just went down the line and tasted each one of these things, just off the wall stuff, thinking that, oh, this will never work, this will never work. And we tasted through these samples, and the very last one was a rum finished in a Scotch barrel. I think it was a Lefroy barrel. And it's like, come on, really, rum and Scotch? There's no way that's going to taste good. And it was hands down the best one that we liked. And so we did it was 8-year-old rum that was left, that we held back from our first release that would have been 7 years old, which would have been rum batch 1. So we finished the leftovers from rum batch 1 in Scotch barrels and released it as a Tale of Two Islands, speaking to the two islands from the cask and the liquid.
Are you an Isla fan, Tripp?
That sounds awesome.
I do I like Isla Scotch to a point. I'm not a huge Scotch drinker. I haven't gotten there yet. I figure the older I get, the more I'll gravitate that way. That seems to be the way it works, at least as far as I can tell.
Maybe not. Some people just never gravitate that way. I gravitated really instantly. I love it. And I don't know that I'm ever going to get her to enjoy it.
He's been trying to get me for 3 years.
So it's really, I don't know if it's a time thing or not, but some people just really don't enjoy the malt flavor as much as they enjoy the corn flavor. So again, with what you were saying earlier, with palates are palates, and just enjoy what you enjoy, and that's wonderful.
Well, I should say, I like Scotch. I just don't like peated Scotch.
Right. She does zero tolerance for peat.
Can't do it.
So if that rum has peat, even barrel finished, we did a peat barrel finished bourbon just yesterday. We did a batch shooting, and she wasn't a fan of that one. So
I thought it was great.
That
was another question.
I love Scotch.
That's what I missed.
It's okay. You like what you like.
Yeah, speaking of that, Joseph Brazeless wanted to know, have you guys reached out to Woodinville at all to do anything with them by chance? Or if you, in general?
I have not. I don't know if conversations have been had, but I have not personally known.
Okay. That answers the question, Joseph. So the Tale of Two Islands, is that something that's still available on the market? Because now I'm intrigued. It sounds really good. Is that
I doubt it.
It's still on your website.
No, it's. Is it up?
It was still on the website.
Is there a buy now? Well, now all the products will be on the website. If there's not a buy now button next to it, it's not for sale.
I did not verify that information.
So the question for that is, does anybody have one by chance so we can try it? Because it sounds awesome.
I think you're. It's a needle in a haystack at this point.
I think I'll work on that deal.
Email Matt at whiskeycrusaders3@gmail.com.
That's right. Yeah, I'm gonna have to go look for some rum now, because I'm very intrigued in general with all this rum stuff. I like good age rum anyway, so this sounds fascinating. All of this, that's awesome.
Well, the vatted malt is quite lovely.
It is great. I really like it.
Thank you.
Oh, that's good stuff. Okay, so what other stuff are you got any experiments coming on the pipeline you can talk about, or what other stuff you guys got coming up for the distillery?
We're going to have, I'm working on Bourbon 25 right now. We're going to have another Dovetail release coming out. We've got another Infinite coming. We've got a whole bunch of single barrels that are coming out. We've got the private release whiskey, the private release rums.
Okay.
What else? What am I forgetting? There'll be multiples of some of those.
Okay.
We've kicked around doing the vatted malt again with some different folks. Include some of the same, but get some different folks in there because we enjoyed that one so much. Yeah, that's where we are.
Will there be new versions? Like, I assume is this the only bottling of the vatted American malt, or is there other ones besides this one? Or will there be new ones
we've done it. Well, again, I'm not real sure how we're going to move forward on that. It's there are talks of doing it again. It's just a matter of having the conversations and picking out the barrels.
Okay, very cool.
Do you have a whole lot to say about what you're getting from a distillery, or is it really just one of those, hey, we want to buy a barrel or 3 barrels from you, what do you have for me, or can you do it?
Well, if we're going to buy something from another facility, we'll have the initial conversation and say that we're interested, and if they're interested, then they'll typically send us some samples and we'll pick what we like.
Okay.
We're not going to buy something that we haven't tasted.
Okay. So, I mean, essentially, though, it's one of those situations where they're sending the things that they're willing to showcase / get rid of. Whether or not they want to showcase that particular thing to you, or whether or not they're just trying to get it out of their warehouse because it doesn't fit their flavor profile.
That's right. But there is a ton of whiskey available out there, and we turn down more whiskey than we even buy.
Ow.
Wow.
Yeah, there's a bunch of it out there.
Tell them to email me. I might buy them.
All for taking whiskey off your hands.
Okay, so Pat from My Whiskey Down wants to know, have you worked with Maggie Campbell at Privateer Rum at all?
I have not, no.
Okay.
Guys, get in your questions. If you have questions for Tripp, let's go ahead and throw those down here so that we can go ahead and make sure we get all those answered before we get off the stream.
Yes. This has been awesome. I've enjoyed all of it.
Appreciate having you on, Tripp.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys.
Yeah, this has been a blast.
I thoroughly enjoy your whiskey, and I'm looking forward to drinking our dump glass in a little bit.
Oh, look at there. Experimentation.
That's right. We pour in mini Glencairns, and then we typically don't even finish what we pour. We pour it into a little dump glass, and usually Sarah goes to bed, and I get to finish this at the end of the night.
Sarah's going to finish it before she goes to bed tonight.
She called dibs tonight. She was like, hey. So, again, with another first, you know.
Well, usually you're putting Scotch crap in there, and it's peated and ruined. And
I try to make sure I put a little bit of peat in every time so that it gets to be mine.
So she'll leave your whiskey alone?
Maybe.
Oh,
no, we're all about blending things in our house anyway.
I mean, we really are.
Just on a normal night, blend a couple things in the cabinet and see what we get.
There you go. So Kevin Stanley wants to know, can you break down the BCS craft program at all?
Sure, Kevin. Great question. So if you look at our portfolio is tiered in that when you enter into the program, it's the Infinite Barrel. Then we have batches, which is the next level up, and that's batches across spirit types. So bourbon, whiskey, rye, and rum. The next level up is going to be the single barrels and private release, and then you're going to go up into the BCS, which is the top tier. The BCS stuff is what we have found to be very good in that we don't want to use it in a batch, but we think it's better than what would be a single barrel. So we will either blend something together that goes into that package. But that BCS package, which is the black box with the black and gray label and the gray top. For those of you who don't know what we're talking about, we will create product to go into that packaging. If we don't have a product that is worthy of going in that packaging, then we just won't do it. So you're not going to see a regular, quarterly release or, biannually release of any certain one of the BCS products. It's only going to be when we find something that's like, oh, wow, this is absolutely fantastic. This is going to be a BCS product. Otherwise, you just won't see it.
Oh, that's what I was saying. Can you talk about your 25-year whiskey I saw on your website as well?
Dude, he's asking me.
Yeah, the 25-year-old whiskey was a whiskey that we had finished in some brandy casks as well.
Ooh, that sounds fun.
And it was a very interesting, very, very small, very limited. We didn't have a whole lot of it, but we did a little finish on it. It turned out to be really good. So we actually released it with the BCS rum bourbon, and then that would have been the BCS whiskey. So that was the first release of each of those.
Very cool. So I assume those are long gone, unfortunately, then.
Yeah, they're all gone. We've since released one version of the BCS bourbon, and then we have a rum that we're going to put out here soon that's really good. And we're in the process right now of working on a blend for the BCS whiskey that will be really interesting.
Awesome. Looking forward to that.
I don't really have a timeline on them yet. Again, it's more still kind of talking to us, if you will.
That works.
Your blended whiskeys good together.
Okay, we got a question from
Double blended
Golf Whiskey, which is Glenn. He wants to know about. It's hard to find in Virginia. When the stores up in Maryland, after the crisis, he's going to start looking for the products there. Is it a real limited supply in Virginia? I assume then, if that's what he's saying.
I don't know off the top of my head what the allocation is over there, but if you'll go to the website, there's a store locator, and you can put in your zip code or address, and it will tell you the closest places to you where you can purchase our products.
Perfect. Now, maybe we can deliver to you, Glenn. That might solve the problem too.
What was the website one more time, Tripp?
BarrellBourbon.com.
It's Barrell Bourbon, 2 R's, 2 L's.com. Make
sure you got that second L in there.
Yeah, I think we get the first L too. I think we got that one as well.
All right. So the Irish we were talking about earlier is I know you said that was like a special release or whatever. Yeah, I'm hoping that does at some point find its way to Texas because that sounds really awesome. I would love to try that. That sounds good. So we're gonna make a blend here of all of this stuff and see what we get.
I have a question. With the Infinity Barrel project, is it literally everything to where like some of the Irish went in there, some of the rye went in there, some of the American Vatted Malt, everything that you put out has gone in there?
Whiskey wise, all different types of whiskeys. There are a few barrels of bourbon have gone in there, and there have been lots of finishes that have gone in there. Again, it's just a fun project that we play around with flavor. We've got the category allows us a lot of freedom to really expand what would be a flavor profile, because you can get so bogged down and so linear within bourbons that once you step out of the bourbon whiskey into just the whiskey category, you then have a whole lot of you've got a whole lot of room to bring whiskeys from all over the world, and that all bring different unique characteristics to the whole.
Yeah.
Ooh, that's interesting.
Do you wish there was two different categories for blended whiskey and unfit blended whiskey?
Well, I think I think you have to be able to define the difference in a blended whiskey and a blend of whiskeys.
Agreed.
Where the blended whiskey is the inclusion of GNS, whereas a blend of whiskey is a blend of straight whiskeys.
I think
things
that would
you
actually just be enough, wouldn't it?
Right.
Just to be able to have those two separate categories, even though they are very, very similar.
Yeah.
Just being able to have
having that understanding is important.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and
That
again,
would be really nice.
that is as transparent as you are, it's not hard to understand that it is a blend of whiskeys and it is not a blended whiskey.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of the companies are just putting out product, are just kind of throwing in whatever they need to throw in to get the product out there. So
right, unless it says single barrel on it, who knows?
Right. So it really has been a pleasure talking to you, good sir.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I appreciate you guys having me on. I really enjoyed it.
Absolutely, this was wonderful. Okay, good. Spence made it. He wanted to hear about the American Vatted Malt, so because he usually goes to bed early, but he made it through. So I'm proud of you, Spencer. Good job, and you got your questions answered. So that's awesome.
Anybody else have any questions?
So that's a good question from Pat. Is the TTB addressing the blended issue in the May 4th update by chance? Any idea on that?
We talked about we went through the update the other day, and I don't know that has necessarily been addressed as in separating, blended versus a blend of. I think that's something that will be addressed, but I don't think it's something that will be this round.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So I guess because that's another question for you in general is, do you guys only use 53s as far as your barrels, or do you guys use all sizes of barrels when you guys are blending your stuff together?
Typically, we only use the 53s. We have played around with some of the smaller ones. Some of the things that we buy do come in the smaller ones, but typically it's just the 53s.
Okay. Awesome. So anybody else? I guess if anyone else has any other questions, let us know and we will pose them to them. Otherwise, let's see here. Somebody else got anything? Just making sure I didn't miss anybody. Green Bay. So do you guys consider whiskey from every state as a possibility, or just certain ones, or just your guys are up for anything?
Again, it's
a really fun blend.
As far as I'm concerned, flavor's driving the bus. So if there's something that is interesting and unique, and it's available and we can make it work in something that we're working on, then I'm all about it.
That'd be a fun 50-state blend.
Right.
If we could make
that would be cool.
Get a little bit of something from every
Be a lot of whiskey.
State.
That'd be really cool.
Yeah. It'd be hard to decide one whiskey from every state, though.
Yeah.
There are some states that have a lot of good whiskey.
Ooh, Cliff.
Or maybe it doesn't have to be one.
Well, that's true. Just every state included. It could be 100 states or 100 barrels included, just every state represented.
Okay, so we got another question from Eugene Nassif asking is, why don't you guys blend light with bourbon and rye?
I guess, again, getting into the light whiskey question.
Yes.
You start to
play around with it.
You really start to cross over when you start blending bourbons, ryes, and different types of whiskey. You've then moved yourself from any specific category down into just the whiskey category. Right. So where you might be able to take advantage of a bourbon whiskey or a rye whiskey, when you start blending all of those together, now you're just a whiskey.
Okay. Makes sense on that. Would you guys ever consider, I don't even know if this would be good or not. Would you be worth combining a bunch of different light whiskeys, or are there not that many out there as far as something to do with that? Or how would that go generally?
I'm not necessarily against it. We'll try anything. We'll play around with just about anything. And at the end of the day, if the flavor is good enough to go in the bottle, then we would do something with it. Otherwise, we'd back up and punt, or we'd use it as a different component place else.
Okay. And the reason I know what Eugene's asking is he says he is being one of the biggest light ballers and finishers, so he's big into blends now. I'm pretty sure that's the Eugene that helped the Whiskey Tribe out. From what I understand who that is, I'm pretty sure he's in, I want to say Iowa by chance, something like that. I'm pretty sure that's the Eugene who that is. I said he was from, I know he told his distillery, what is it? Obtainium Whiskey. I don't know anything about them, but if he'll email us, I'd love to talk to him. That sounds great. So Jason Boosie wants to know, has Barrell ever thought about working with an Islay or a peated bourbon? Ooh, that sounds fun. I'm all for that if you guys are. I'll put it up here. Where'd it go?
I'm not against it. Again,
nice beard, Jason.
I'll give anything a shot.
It's him. Yeah.
Okay, that's what I figured. Yeah. Please email me. I'd love to talk to you. I know Travis Waller to talk to you about it a bunch as well. Yeah, but you can make a peated. I guess a peated cask would be amazing on some of this stuff. I would love to see how that tastes.
Me too.
The bourbons we've had finished in Islay casks have been amazing, so that would be awesome.
Yeah, I'll pass on that one, but
2 out of the 3.
I'll drink everything else that you put out.
All right. Chat, thank you so much for being with us tonight.
Any last things?
Any last things, Tripp, that you want to put out there?
No, I mean, if you guys have other questions, visit the website. If you want to email us with questions, contact at barrellbourbon.com. I've really enjoyed this. Thanks for having me on, and thank you all for your support and your interest in what we're doing. And we're going to stay at it.
Well, yeah. And again, thank you for keeping on putting out consistently good product.
Oh yeah.
Whether it's consistent from batch to batch, to me makes no difference.
As long as the juice in the bottle's good, that's all that matters.
If the juice is good, man, I'm a happy camper.
Absolutely.
Matt, what do we got coming down the pipeline this week?
All right, we got some really cool stuff coming up. So tomorrow is the review for Blood Oath Pack 6. And then on Thursday will be the review for the 4-Gate Batch 6. And then coming up next Monday's live will be with Erica, who's the brand ambassador for Bruichladdich and Westland, 2 of my absolute favorite distilleries. And we're doing exploration of peat. So Sarah's not going to like next week, but it's going to be awesome for the rest of us.
I just drink my Westland sherry.
Heard that? Westland sherry.
I'll drink my Westland sherry all night.
There you go.
Thank you, Vegas Art, for the super chat right there at the end.
Thank you.
Appreciate the heck out of you. Good
much, Vegas Art. We got a $5 super chat. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. But yeah, if anything else, Tripp, thank you very much. This has been an awesome, very interesting and informative program, I think, for everyone. And I love all the whiskey nerdiness. This was awesome. More than welcome to have you on anytime. So yeah, if everybody else is good, we're going to say good night to everyone, and we will cheers everybody out and some of this delicious blend of all of them.
Tripp, you stay right here, Tripp. You don't go anywhere. Good night.
All right.
Cheers.
All right, cheers, everyone.
Keep on crusading.
Good night, everybody. Thanks.
All right. There we go.